Hello viewers, welcome to Mycology. This video is in continuation with the plant tissues, in which a classification was given along with the details of the meristematic tissue. Here in this video we'll discuss about the permanent tissues. A permanent tissue is one that does not divide further. It comprises of groups of cells where growth has either stopped completely or at least for the time being. They take a permanent shape to perform a permanent function. So permanent tissues are classified into the basic major types. Structurally, it can be either simple permanent tissues or complex permanent tissues. A simple permanent tissue when all cells are structurally and functionally similar. But it is called complex permanent tissue when there are two or more types of cells that are specialized to perform a common function. According to their function, we categorize these tissues in plants under the following heads: the protective tissues, then the supportive tissues, and finally the conducting tissues. So let's begin with the protective tissues. The protective tissues are also called the epidermal tissues. Few characteristics of the protective tissues include the following: that they form a protective outer covering on the parts of the plant body. The outer wall of the cells are thick and covered by cutin. Location-wise, they are found on the surface of roots, stems, and leaves. The function of cutin is to reduce the loss of water or act as an anti-transpirant. The epidermis also has special cells called guard cells to help opening and closing of stomata. Lenticels are present on old and woody stems. Cork is also a protective tissue which is found on the boundary of roots and stems. Phelloderm is a multi-layered covering on the big tree trunks, which is composed of phellem, phellogen, and Phelloderm. These are protective tissue of secondary origin, which replaces the epidermal cells. Next we come to the supportive tissue, which is also otherwise known as the ground tissues. They make the bulk of the plant body. These provide support to the different plant parts, and they are basically of three different types: Parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Parenchyma comprises of living cells with thin walls. They are usually oval, spherical, or cylindrical in shape. Location-wise, they are almost found in every part of the plant body, starting from the roots to the stems and the leaves. The pith and cortex are always filled with parenchyma cells. Functionally, the parenchyma cells are meant for food storage. Parenchyma cells with abundant chloroplast in them are called collenchyma. They can perform photosynthesis. Temporary support is also provided by the parenchyma cells because they are permanent tissues. The next supportive tissue is collenchyma. Collenchyma is made up of generally living cells, but their walls are thickened at corners. This is due to the cellulose and the deposit of pectin. Each cell of collenchyma are usually oval, circular, or polygonal. Location-wise, they are found below the epidermis, in the young stems, and in the petioles of leaves. Structural support in the growing parts of the plant is an important function of collenchyma. The third variety of supportive tissue are sclerenchyma. Sclerenchyma are generally made up of dead cells. Their walls are thickened all around by deposit of lignin and other substances. The cells are long with tapering ends. Location-wise, they are found in the stems and the veins of the leaves. Functionally, they usually form the shells of the nuts or the gritty masses of the guava or pears, which help it to support the internal parts of it. This is also found as fibers of the jute, cotton, and in hemp. They are also found in the husk of coconut. Sclerenchyma tissue is the strongest amongst the supportive tissues. The next we enter into the complex permanent tissues called the conducting tissues. These complex permanent tissues are always made up of two or more types of cells, and when it is conducting tissues, they are made up of xylem and phloem. Xylem is the water conducting tissue which conducts water along with dissolved minerals, whereas phloem is the food conducting tissue. So let us begin with the xylem or the water and mineral conducting tissues. The xylem vessels or the tracheae, comprising of a series of cells, are joined from end to end, forming a long tube. In the xylem vessels, the transverse walls get dissolved. The next are the tracheids. The tracheids are narrow and elongated cells tapering at the ends. At maturity, both tracheids and the vessels, they transport water and minerals from the roots to the upper parts of the plant body. Then it comes to the xylem fibers. They provide strength to the tissue, do not participate in the transport at maturity. It forms the wood or the annual rings that help to count the age of the tree or the plant. These are made up of the dead sclerenchyma tissue. Then it comes to the Xylem parenchyma. This is the only living component of xylem. It stores food besides conduction of water. Food in the form of sugars and starches. The next conducting tissue is phloem, derived from the word phloes, which means bark. This is the food conducting tissue in the plants. Structurally, they are made up of living cells, but they comprise of the following 4 different types of cells in phloem. The first being the sieve tubes. These are elongated cells placed end to end, forming a long tube. Here also, the transverse walls are perforated, which help to transport the food from one part to the other. They help in the transport of food from the leaves to the other parts and also in the storage organs. The next cells of phloem are the companion cells. They are living parenchymatous cells closely associated with the sieve cells. They help in the functioning of the sieve cells itself. Thirdly, the phloem parenchyma is the third variety of the phloem cells. The parenchymatous tissue associated with the phloem. They are usually concerned with the storage of starch, fat, and other organic food contents. The last of the phloem type are the phloem fibers. They are the sclerenchymatous cells found associated with the phloem. mainly provide mechanical strength and support to the plant part. Let us recapitulate the differences between the xylem and the phloem of the conducting tissues. Majority of the xylem cells are dead cells, whereas those of the phloem are usually of the living type. Comes to xylem, they conduct water from the soil through the roots to the tip of the plants, usually a unidirectional way, whereas when it comes to phloem, they conduct the food from the leaves to all parts of the plant body. Transport of food by phloem is usually bidirectional, that is from the leaves to the down parts of the plant body, as well as the new leaves, flowers, buds and other structures that arise above them. Xylem and phloem together constitute the vascular bundles, extending from the tip of the root to the tip of the leaves as well. Their arrangement in the stems and the roots are different. So let us look into their exact location in the roots first. In the monocot roots, xylem and phloem are arranged in a circular pattern surrounding the central pith, whereas in the dicot roots, the xylem is centrally located and the bundles of phloem surround the xylem. Moving on to the stem for the pattern of arrangement of the xylem and the phloem internally. In the dicot stems, the xylem is placed inside the cambium ring, whereas the phloem is always located outside the cambium ring. But when it is a monocot stem, the bundles of xylem and phloem are scattered throughout the ground tissue. So in all, we can say the arrangement of the xylem and phloem are more regular in a dicot stem as compared to that of a monocot. Coming to the leaves. In the leaves, the vascular bundles pass through the veins. So the conduction of all necessary substances like water with minerals as well as the food happens in a leaf through the vascular bundles that is present along the veins. Thank you for watching. In my next coming video, we will start with the animal tissues. I hope you liked my video. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, and please subscribe if you still haven't done so.